In this video, we are going to review some concepts of basic probability. We're going to work with some Venn diagrams. We will talk about intersections and unions and complements, etc. So let's see. Unless otherwise specified, probability may be given as fractions, percents, or decimals. So a survey was given to 350 high school students. 170 of them liked Star Wars. All right, so that's event S. 92 of them liked The Hobbit. That's event H. And there were 62 students who liked both movies. So this first picture right here is a picture of a common mistake that students make. What did they do wrong? Well, ask yourself this. According to this incorrect diagram, how many students liked Star Wars? Okay, we're talking about how many like Star Wars. So this entire circle represents the number of students who like Star Wars, the whole circle. All right, not just the outer part, the whole circle. So within this circle, I have 170 and 62. So that would be 170 plus 62. That's 232 students. So according to this incorrect diagram, 232 students like Star Wars. It was supposed to be 170. So obviously the mistake is this 62 needed to be subtracted from 170. This would be 170 minus 62. Okay? So are we supposed to explain what they did wrong? Explain how you know. Explain how you know it's wrong. So according to this diagram, 232 students like Star Wars. Okay, we could have made a similar statement about the number of students who liked The Hobbit. Because according to this incorrect diagram, this many students like The Hobbit. What's that, 62 plus 92? That's 154. But according to the survey, that should be 92. So we should probably go ahead and mention in our explanation 62 should be subtracted from the S group and the H group. Just to make it more clear, I said subtracted from the outer S group and the outer H group. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this correctly. So the way that you can be always correct is to start with the overlapping part. So there were 62 students who liked both movies. Go ahead and write the 62 down first. Now, 170 of them liked Star Wars. So this entire circle should be 170. So you can do 170 minus the 62 that we already have, and that tells us that 108 are left over to be in this part of the diagram. Similarly, 92 students like The Hobbit. So we want to do 92 minus the 62 that we already have written down. That tells us that there are 30 students left for this part of the diagram. Now, if we look at the total number of students who like Star Wars, it will these two numbers add up to 170. If we look at the total number of students who like The Hobbit, these two numbers add up to 92, as they should. Problem number 2, how many students like Star Wars but not The Hobbit? Okay, looking at our correct diagram, this 108 represents the number of students who like Star Wars but not The Hobbit. Find the size of set, this is the intersection of set H and S. So we could write H and S. Or to be real specific, we're looking for how many students are in H and in S. Okay? So that's going to be this overlapping part. That's the 62. Okay, what is the probability that a randomly selected student will like both movies? So, these problems are very similar, but if you're looking for the size, that's just going to be a number. Whereas probability is always going to be target over total. All right, when you're asked for a probability, you're going to have either a fraction or a decimal or a percent. And you're going to get all of these by doing target over total. So the total is the total number of students. So in this case, we're talking about 350 students. By the way, I feel like this diagram is probably incomplete. I haven't added these up yet, but let's add up all of these numbers. This is not going to be 350. Okay, so if we add up 108, okay, plus 62, plus 30, okay, that's 200. So out of a total of 350, that leaves 150 left over. So the 150 right here, this represents students that didn't like Star Wars, and they didn't like The Hobbit either. They liked neither Star Wars nor The Hobbit. That's why they're out here. So all of the numbers have to add up to the total. I was missing the 150 before. Okay, anyway, back to this. The total is 350. So the target is students who liked both movies. All right, the number of students who liked both movies. So we already said that that was going to be 62. All right, 62 students liked both movies. So target over total, that's 62 over 350. Okay, so that's a fraction. We could reduce it, 62 over 350. Okay, so that's 31 over 175. Now as a decimal, all right, this I'm going to have to round this a little bit, but this would be 0.1771. which as a percent, this would be 17.71% approximately. Now, in problem number 4, I gave you the word probability, so you knew to do target over total. On this problem, and in problem number 3, I gave you the word size, so you knew just to give me a number. So problem number 5, I'm giving you these symbols. Based on these symbols, am I looking for just the size of a set, or am I looking for a probability? Well, this P stands for probability. And of course, the H stands for the number of students who liked The Hobbit. So this means the probability, let me type this. The probability of randomly picking a student who liked The Hobbit. Okay, so that's what it means, and now we have to find it. So whenever we do probability, we're doing target over total. All right, the total is still going to be 350. The target is students who liked The Hobbit. So 92 students liked The Hobbit. So that's going to be 92 over 350. We can reduce this by doing 92 over 350. So that's 46 over, 175. Which as a decimal is going to be 0.2629. Which as a percent is 26.29%. All right, so here are 3 different forms of the answer. So for number 6, we have the probability of not S or H. So first I'm going to write that down. Okay, so we want the probability of not S or H. All right, so this means I'm going to write this down off camera. All right, so this is a little tricky to put into words. Hopefully you can follow this. This means the probability of randomly either picking a student who does not like Star Wars, boom, or picking a student who likes The Hobbit. That's this. All right, the probability of picking this or this. A student who doesn't like Star Wars or a student who likes The Hobbit. Either one will do. Okay, now how do we actually calculate that? First of all, don't forget, as soon as you see the word probability, or as soon as you see this little P right here, you should be thinking, this is going to be target over total. And by now it should be clear that the total is the 350, because that's the total number of students who were surveyed. So now we just need to figure out how many students do not like Star Wars or like The Hobbit. So whenever you're doing an OR problem, when it comes to shading, you should be shading all of both. Okay, that's how you do an OR problem or a union problem. You shade all of both. So let's start with not liking Star Wars. All right, not S. So we're going to shade all of that first. So not S is everything outside of S. All right, so this is kind of the boundary of S. So everything outside of S. That's what not S means. Okay, I think I'll do the rest of this coloring off camera because this takes a second. So far this yellow represents all the students who don't like Star Wars. This is not Star Wars. This is not S. Okay, so we want all of that. And when we're doing a union problem, we will also shade all of the other thing. So H represents the students who like The Hobbit. So we're going to shade in all of the H. So most of the H is already shaded in, but because we're shading in all of H, we need to go ahead and shade in this part as well. So now, as I finish shading this in, this now represents the union. This is all the students who either don't like Star Wars or like The Hobbit. So as you can see, it's everyone except for 108. So the quickest thing to do would be to do 350 minus 108 because it's everything except for the 108. That's 242. Okay, so we're doing target over total. So that's 242 over 350. $121 over 175. So that's the fraction. As a decimal, I have 0.6914. Whoops. So as a percent, I'm looking at 69.14%. All right, number 7 will be the last problem on this video. We're going to find the probability of this. Now, if I just said, if I didn't have this little line over it, this would mean H or S. Okay, H or S. In other words, they like The Hobbit or they like Star Wars, either one. Okay, now this little line over the top of it means that it's going to be the complement of this. So that would mean not H or S. And the P out front means that we're dealing with a probability, so I really need to move this over. So I can say the probability of whoa, went crazy there for a second. So the probability of not H or S. So this is definitely going to be a target or a target over total problem. So if I really put that into words, I'm looking for the probability of randomly picking a student who does not like The Hobbit or Star Wars. That's what this all means. So since we're doing probability, we're going to do target over total. Again, the total is going to be 350 because that was the total number of students surveyed. So now we just have to figure out how many students do not like The Hobbit or Star Wars. Okay? Now, let's start by highlighting the people who like either The Hobbit or Star Wars. That's all of these. Okay? This is The Hobbit or Star Wars. Okay? So where are the people who do not like The Hobbit or Star Wars? Whoa, why did it jump? All right, here are the people who do not like The Hobbit or Star Wars. There's 150 of them, way outside of both circles, because they don't like either one. So that's our target right there. So that's why when we do target over total, it'll be 150 over 350. So that's 3/7. That is approximately 0.4286. Which as a percent would be 42.86%. All right, so these are the three forms of the answer. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.